You know, this is like playing golf. It's simple. Hit the ball, put it in the hole. So all you got to do here is just follow the instruction, drive the right speed, and then just make the turns where they tell you. That's all there is to it. But just like golf, doing it well can be really difficult. It takes expertise, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes practice. And by the way, you have to do more than one great race before you get very good, generally. But all of you rookies in the room have a huge advantage on a lot of the rest of us. You can win this year only as a rookie. So this is your big shot. Go for it. Win your money this year. You get up in the next division, it gets tougher. And then it gets tougher after that. I'm starting to rethink my efforts on training rookies because I'm finding the rookies are moving up into the sportsman class and then they're competing against us and they're better than we are. I helped train 2 specific rookie teams last year and they both beat us. So we broke down. Okay. All right, we're going to talk about 4 S's today. And you can ask questions as we go along. I'll try and cover them. I may move ahead a bit so that we can cover the subject a little later, but I'll try and get to all your questions. There's 4 S's that you need to understand. The 4 S's are safety first, start on time, stay on course, and stay on time. If you're a rookie, your main focus for today and tomorrow needs to be on the first 3. Safety first, starting on time, and staying on course. We're going to talk about time corrections and so on today. Don't pay too much attention to those today. You can start working on those tomorrow and the next few days. Okay? All right. Do we have any questions about how to picking up your course instructions and getting started today or tomorrow? John covered that pretty thoroughly. I will tell you one new piece of information. Steve and Vicki, who hand out your course instructions, will have a digital WWV time calibration clock someplace near the canopy today. So when you leave here, you can go calibrate your clock and your stopwatch out front. They will have that where you pick up your course instructions every morning. So you should calibrate or check your clock and or your stopwatch every morning so you make sure you are on the same time as all the course workers are on. So you can do that. You can do it at any time. You don't have to wait till it's your turn to pick up your course instructions. You can do it at any time. Walk out there and check it. You can also check your clocks. You can go to the time.gov on the internet and you can get the time standard there and you can calibrate against that. Any questions?
How accurate is a cell phone app against the clock outside?
I've heard people tell me different stories about that. I trust the one out front. That's what John and his crews are using. So there's other methods. Take your chance. I like the one out front.
Bill, I will call WWV for my hotel room and set my clock and my stopwatch.
Right.
And the phone call is as accurate. I will always double check it against the radio
Right.
clock, but it's always right on.
Right. Okay. She says the phone call with the WWV number is always as good as the one we have out front, but she always double checks it too against the one out front. You know, it's this old thing, trust but verify. I trust the phone call. I'm going to verify it with John's number. All right. We're going to talk about safety for a minute. No score is worth an accident. We tell everybody to drive safe. All the speeds are below the speed limit. Even if you have to make up time, you should be able to do it within the speed limit. Don't do something that's unsafe, even though you will be sorely tempted at times. You made a wrong turn, you got back in line, and you're 5 cars out of position, and your temptation is to go like a bat whatever, and pass the next 5 cars and get back in position. We've all done it. You will do it, but safety first. If you don't make it, if you can't drive fast enough to do it, if you're breaking speed limits, be very careful. No score is worth an accident. We don't want to get anybody hurt on this, so be very careful. For you drivers, when you're driving on the course, if you see cars that are coming up behind you that are trying to pass you, trying to get back in position, be courteous to them, but it is their problem, not yours, okay? They need to find a safe place to pass you and to get in front. You can run your own race. They made the mistake. They have to take the consequences. There's time delays. We will talk about time delays here in a little bit. For situations beyond your control, you can take a time allowance. You cannot take a time allowance for your flat tire, the fact you slept in the morning and started late, the fact you got lost and had to go turn around and come back. No, you cannot do that. If a combine pulls out in front of you and does 10 miles an hour for the next 3 miles down the road, and there's no way you can pass him and or make up the time, you can take a time allowance for that. That was beyond your control. If your distributor breaks and it takes you 30 minutes on the side of the road to fix it, that was within your control. You should have fixed it before you got here.
If we get into a real heavy rainstorm today or tomorrow or whatever, can we pull over to the side of the road and take a time delay for that?
Yes. If it's something where it's impossible, if you had to sit there for 10 seconds, make it up. You sit there for 5 minutes and you can't proceed because it's unsafe, you can take a time allowance. Let's get started on time, the second S, and one of the most important. If you do not start on time at that restart point in the field, if you're a minute late and don't know it, all the good corners and stop signs and all those things won't help if you're a minute off. And often people get started and a minute off and don't know they're a minute off. And if you don't know it, you just proceed in ignorance. So make sure you get started on time. And the key time point on this rally today is at instruction, right after lunch, is instruction 26. So no matter when you pick up your instructions in the morning and when you get your speedo check done and all those things, when you come to that second digital clock of the day, that's the one where you have to be precisely on time. Picking up instructions in the morning, you will normally get them 30 minutes before your scheduled start time. When you pick up your instructions, you do not have to wait until your scheduled time. In this case, the scheduled time is at 11:30. You would have picked up your instructions on a normal day starting at 11 o'clock plus your car position, start position. You do not have to sit there at the hotel for that 30 minutes. You can leave at any time after you get your course instructions. But I suggest that you pick up your course instructions and do a couple of things. First off, count the pages. It is really bad news at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when you find out that page 26 is missing. There's nothing you can do. So count your pages. As soon as you get your instructions, there could be a printing or assembly error. Make sure you got them all. Secondly, in our car, we start to do a couple things. We'll spend 10 minutes sitting in the hotel lobby or something, and we'll start to work on the course instructions. We have to punch 3 holes in the top of ours to get them on our clipboard, so we do that as we count the pages. Then we go through and start writing a couple things on. We look at every page and write the correct speed at the top of every page from the page before. So when you look at the bottom of page 5, you're doing 20 miles an hour. Write 20 at the top of page 6. Do that on every page. Do this so you do not have to flip pages back and forth. You're up over here on page 6 and you're coming, heading towards that stop sign, and it might be 2 miles that stop sign, you forgot what speed you're supposed to be driving. You have to flip the page back to see, just write it up at the top of the page. If in an instruction like instruction 35, if the speed of 25 is not written there, then write in the speed from the previous instruction, if that hole is blank. So there's a couple things you can do before you ever leave get in the car. Take 10 minutes and do those kind of things. There's another thing that you need to do very early. If you look at the top of page 6 and look at instruction 34, what's the hint say on column D on 34? Comes quick. So you're finishing 33 on the previous page, and you're working along, and you got some errors, and you're trying to calculate how you did at that stop sign. You finally turn the page. Oh my goodness. That came very quick. That one you'll probably find it was another stop sign. But it might not be a stop sign. It might be a turn that comes very quick, and you will have missed it because you were sitting there looking at the page before. If you see it comes quick, highlight those comes quick in the right-hand column, column D, and if it's the top of a page, make yourself a big note on the page before to make sure you get that page turned really quickly, and so you know what's coming on the top of the next page. How many veterans here have been caught by that? Okay, we've all, by the way, there's 83 separate mistakes you can make. I've counted them. They they repeat at random.
33 starts at 0, miles per hour, 15 seconds.
Which instruction? 33. Okay.
I'm leaving there at 20 miles an hour, I turn the page and I'm at 0.
No.
Stop.
No, it says you're doing 20 miles an hour. When you get to the stop sign, you're going to 0. Yeah, you've crossed off one error already. You're down to 82 more to make. Let's talk about starting line. John talked about starting line out in the field when you get it out to instruction 26, where you're going to start on time. You will get there early at 26 probably. There'll be 10 to 20 cars sitting there. Find a safe place to wait, away from the action. You can watch the other cars go. After the car in front of you has left, it's now your minute. You can pull up to the start position, and you can sit there and wait until it's your exact time to go, and you can pull out and go. If the car in front of you isn't there, don't go a minute early. Sit there and wait until it's your time to go. Now, there's an issue with dash clocks. Dash clocks have the minute hands lead when they go down on the right side, and they lag when they go up on the other side, and the minute hand is often between two numbers. Just a tip, we use the time of day on our stopwatch to make sure we're on the absolute right minute. You can do that, and then you can switch your stopwatch back to its normal function. Leave on time. Now, and there's nobody at that start line to tell you when to go. It is your total responsibility to know when to leave. Question?
Is there ever a case where the car ahead of you has missed his time or something, and so he's going to affect your time starting?
If the car in front of you has missed his time and shows up late, he has a problem. He needs to allow you to go when you're supposed to go.
Can you sit there and honk your horn at him?
No, if the car in front of you sits there and doesn't go, pull up around him and leave on your minute. I've seen this happen where somebody thought it was his minute to go. He's pulled up and he decided to go anyway, and then you find him a mile down the road stopping and waiting a minute to get back on time. Let's talk about sign terminology and communication in the car. You and your navigator need to find a way of communicating that is clear and concise and conveys the information that you need to convey. If you don't do that and start talking about other things, you will miss a sign. If my navigator, my bride of 50 years, says we're looking for a hard left 25, I know exactly what that sign looks like. I don't have to see that sign. I'll see it on the road, but I know what I'm looking for as a driver. Item 35 is a hard left 25, not a soft left 25. It's not just a hard right, it's a hard right or hard left 25. Now, someplace in here there was a snake. Where's the snake? 56, there's the snake sign. It's a snake sign, all right, but it's a very specific snake sign. That sign happens to be a snake left 20. It's not a snake right 20, it's a snake left 20. Okay, because the first turn on that sign goes to the left. So you need to be that kind of specific when you're communicating. In our car, we use a kind of symbols called ICE, which stands for Identify, Confirm, Execute. The navigator will tell us what we're looking for. We're looking for that hard left 25. We will start seeing yellow signs. That one's a possibility. No, that's not it. And one of us will say, that's it, I see it. The other one will say, I see it too, confirmed. Then the navigator at that point can look down at the instructions and make sure that we know what to do at that sign, because the driver now knows where the sign is and sees it. The navigator will then say, at that hard left 25, you're going to change speeds to 20 miles an hour or whatever you're going to do, and confirms to the driver what you're to do when you reach that sign. Then after we leave the sign, I will say to my navigator, I'm holding whatever speed. I'm holding 20. And she will immediately say, no, you idiot, you're supposed to be doing 25. Yeah, that's good communication. Yeah. But she tells you what to do, and then you do it and confirm it back that what you're doing. And then the navigator should often, down the road every few minutes, say you're doing 40, or you're doing this, and just checking what you're doing, or the driver can communicate what he's doing. We used to say that you could tell the drivers because they had bruises on their right arm, because the navigator would say, we're doing 40. We're doing 40. We're doing 40. Damn it, I said do 40. So, a safety item when you're on the course. The drivers, I used to call them civilians, and somebody reminded me it'd be more appropriate to call them non-participants. Non-participants in the rally, we're always driving about 5 miles an hour below the speed limit. Most non-participants are driving 5 miles an hour above the speed limit. Okay? So they're going to start piling up on may pile up on your bumper. Usually there's not much traffic, but they may pile up on your bumper. When you come to that hard left 25 sign, they expect you to take your foot off the gas and slow down even more. But no, we great racers don't do that. What do we do when we get that sign? We nail the brakes. The last thing that car behind you expects you to do. If you have cars behind you, get your hand out the window, wave them back, get them to slow down, give them some space so you don't get hit. Work as a team, no matter if your navigator makes all the errors, it's team errors, and takes a team to fix them after you make the mistake. Work together as a team. Cross off your instructions as you complete them. I'm sure we will have some place during this rally over 9 days where we will have 2 identical instructions in a row. The worst thing in the world is only to do one of them. The second worst in the world is to do it 3 times instead of twice. So cross them off. In our car, I will sometimes look over at the instruction sheet because it's in a place where I can see it. If the navigator's busy doing something else and I forget what to do, I will look over there, and so I can see what the next instruction is without bothering the navigator. When you come to a stop sign, a good technique on a stop sign, you're going to be timing your pause times probably at a stop sign. You will come up to a stop sign, the driver will stop, the navigator starts the stopwatch. The navigator will say we're going to turn left on 8 seconds, if that's your correct pause time. And then by the time she says that, she's already at 4 seconds on the watch, and she will say 4, 5, 6, 7, go. The last word is always go because the driver forgot when he was supposed to go, even though he heard it 4 seconds earlier. He's watching traffic or something. So I think you should always count up rather than down. Count up to the time you're going to go. Use go as the last word. Then as the driver accelerates away from the stop sign, navigators remind him again of how fast he's supposed to leave the stop sign because he forgot that too. So as he pulls out and says you're going to 40, and he'll know exactly what speed to go to. All right, if you do all those things, stay on the course, start on time, you will have a good rally this afternoon, and tomorrow you'll do pretty good. And by Sunday, you'll start to get frustrated because your scores aren't looking quite as good as you think you can do. So we're going to talk about how to handle time changes, time shifts, time allowances. We got about 20 minutes and we should be finished so everybody can leave on time. Stop signs. John allows you 15 seconds at a stop sign, tells you to pause, but he assumes you can stop instantly and start instantly. Some of the cars, even though we got Corvettes and some other cars, we got a Plymouth with a 426 Hemi in it in the race and so on, even they can't do that. So you need to stop for less time so you can allow for the acceleration or the deceleration and the acceleration time. And that's where your car calibration chart comes in handy. We've given you one in the books you received, and we handed them out today, and there's a stop chart on there. And you can look at the in time for the speed you're approaching the intersection, and then go across to the speed where you're leaving the intersection, and it will tell you how long to pause instead of the 8.6 seconds or 15 seconds. It says pause for 8.6 seconds. You're probably not going to be able to handle tenths of a second, round it off to the nearest whole second, and go on those times. Now, if you didn't make your own chart and you're using our charts for a 36 Packard, just drive like a 36 Packard. The guys in the 426 Hemi used our chart in Joplin a few weeks ago, and they thought it worked fine. So I guess you can do it. Better to make your own chart, and you can do that for next year. For a turn, if you do the stop sign correctly, when you come out of the stop sign, you will be back on time. Well, let's say you stop and you pause the 8 seconds and your driver doesn't go because he's got oncoming traffic or a problem, and he sits there. Let the watch run and stop the watch when he does decide to go finally. And then subtract your 8 seconds. He was supposed to be stopped. He stopped for 15. You're now 7 seconds behind, and you'll need to make up the 7 seconds. In some cases, the driver may leave early because he saw a spot in traffic and there were two 18-wheelers coming, so he jumped out in front. He was supposed to go on 8. He went on 6. Now you're 2 seconds too fast, and you'll have to lose some time down the road. When you have adjustments in time to make those adjustments fairly quickly. The first opportunity you have, make them up. Do not carry them forward from one page to the next and so on. Sure enough, heck, checkpoint will show up and you'll be in trouble. So make them up, don't carry them forward. Corners, we use a chart the same way. You read your in speed, you read your out speed, and that intersection on the chart will tell you how many seconds of net loss you have on the corner. And that will be a net loss. You always lose speed on a corner. And where's Jeff Fredette? Oh, he got up. He was just here. Unless you corner like Jeff Fredette in the yellow 32 pickup. But normally what we do, and the chart is based on this, the ones we've given you, we slow to 15 miles an hour at the apex of the corner, shift gears, and accelerate out. That's what that chart is based on. You can make your own chart. You can do it differently. There's more advanced techniques for corners, and we're not going to talk about that here. You can ask the veterans about that when you're ready for it. But so you will have a net loss coming out of a corner. Now let's talk about one more thing, and then I'll tell you about makeup times. Let's find a speed change. Well, let's talk about 35 first. Okay, let's look at instruction 35. You're doing 40 miles an hour in instruction 34, and you're going to go to 25 miles an hour when you come to instruction 25, or 35. So how do you make that speed change? What you want to do is brake smoothly and consistently across that sign, so you cross the sign at half the speed between the two speeds. So in this case, it's going to be what, 32.5 miles an hour. So you want to be doing 32.5 miles per hour at that sign as you're slowing between 40 and 25 in a very smooth, steady fashion. Don't wait until the sign and then start braking, or don't brake ahead of time before you get to the sign and get all the way to the speed before the sign. Do what we call splitting the sign. Split the speed across the sign. If you need to err a little bit to get it right, err on braking a little too early, especially if it's a very large speed change. You'll be more accurate doing it that way. Questions on how to split a sign? You do the same thing going up, exactly the same thing. And somebody asked me yesterday, well, how do I know when to start braking? I said, brake so you're exactly halfway between the two speeds when you go across the sign. Where is that? It's at the point where you will be exactly halfway between the two speeds when you get to the sign. How will I know that? As a driver, a practice for you to do is, figure out the half speed in your mind before you get to that point, and glance at the sign, watch the sign go by, and watch your speedometer and see how close you hit it. You can tell, and you can watch it, and you'll get better and better at doing speed splits. If you do those right, you won't have any lost time. Okay? Now, you've come around that corner, and your navigator says you're down 3.6 seconds after you came around the corner. And we need to make that up. We make that up using the 10% rule. The 10%. Yesterday I was doing a rookie seminar, and as we were going through some of this on the board and so on, you could see all the people looking, oh, we're back to 6th grade algebra or something here. I've got to figure this out. It's not hard. You can do it in your head. A 10% rule is take the error and multiply it by 10. So if you got a 3.6 second error you need to make up, multiply it by 10, that's 36. Go 10% faster for those 36 seconds. If you're doing 30 miles an hour, go to 33 miles an hour, do that for the 36 seconds, and slow down, and you'll be back on time. You can do that for any amount. You can do it up or down. 10 times the error, go 10% faster for that amount of time, and you'll be back on time. Another good formula, this one's a little more complex. Another good one to know is if you come up behind a school bus and you have to drive 30 instead of 40 for 30 seconds, there's a formula for calculating that. It's in the books that we sent to all the rookies. But basically, you take the difference in speed, divide it by the correct speed, and multiply that times your seconds. So if you had to go 30 instead of 40 for 30 seconds, take the 30, divide it by the 40, or take 10, I'm sorry, the difference in speed, take 10, divide it by the 40, times your seconds. That's 1/4 of the seconds. And if it was 30 seconds, it would be 7.5 seconds that you then need to make up. Let's talk about transit zones. Let's go to line 39. The most common mistakes that rookies make are on transit zones. So we got to make sure we know how to do a transit zone properly. And by the way, if you go more than half a day without knowing what you're doing, stop. Ask somebody. The first gas break you got, go up to any veteran, anybody, and they will tell them, I don't understand line such and such. What was I supposed to do back there? They will tell you. That's why you have the red hats and the red name tags, is so that we know who the rookies are, and anybody will help you. Don't keep going without understanding what you're doing. It just adds misery to the trip, and it's a lot more fun when you know how to do it. All right, let's look at line 39. When you cross that stop ahead sign at line 39, you need to write down the time of day. My navigator puts in the column D, will put dash, dot, dot, dash, dot, dot, dash on her course instructions before we leave, before we start the day. She'll put that there, and under that she will write plus 25, and then when we get to that stop ahead sign, we record the time of day, either off our stopwatch or off the dash clock, and she writes that time in. And as soon as we stop during this transit, she adds those two numbers together and transfers them down to line 45. She will already put a dash, dot, dot, dash, dot, dot line there, so she knows that that goes there, and she immediately transfers that. Don't go to the bathroom, don't get out of the car until you know what that departure time is. And when you get out of the car to go to the John, because the last race we were on, they had separate men's and women's restrooms, you will go different directions. You need to know when you need to be back in the car ready to go. In this case, notice that it takes 10 minutes to get from the restroom to that restart point at 45. I have seen very long transits where it was not intended for you to take a bathroom break or refuel. You thought you could do it. There were places you could do it. And you stopped, went to the bathroom, filled the car with fuel, and you got back out, and it said it's 45 minutes to get from where you are to the restart point, and you've used up all the time going to the bathroom. Some transits are just intended to get you someplace, not intended for you to take a break. So make sure you know how long it's going to take you to get to that restart point. When you get to line 45 and you've got your time to go, the cars will no longer be a minute apart. You may be perfect, but the cars in front of you and the car behind you will not be perfect. You will not be living on 1 minute intervals. You will be spaced at some other spacing. Maybe a few seconds apart, it may be minutes apart. So just watch that, so when you pull up to that start point at that speed limit 25, or that 25 corner marker sign, just be aware when you pull up there, you may not have a full minute. There may be 2 or 3 of you trying to leave within that same minute at that point. One thing that John didn't mention, I just saw a note I made, we will cross a couple of time zones on this rally. The practice has been in the past, every day stays in one time zone as far as our timing is concerned. You may physically cross into a different time zone, but your clocks and everything stay on the time zone you started in the morning. John will probably be more specific on that in the instructions, but that's, we've had that question come up. Time allowances. At the back of your instructions, there will be 2 sheets attached every day for a time allowance sheet. They should be self-explanatory. We talked a little bit about when you can use them and when you can't. When you get a chance, when you stop, fill those out, make a note in your margin of your instructions, when it occurred, how much time it was, and then fill out the form. You must turn the form in at the first red checkpoint. Typically, that's going to be at lunch and when you end the day. If there happened to be an emergency red sign out along the route someplace, you would turn it in there. At a red checkpoint sign, you're allowed to stop before the red checkpoint sign. If you see there's a red checkpoint and you haven't filled out the form, stop, fill it out, proceed up to the red sign, and turn it in. With a green checkpoint, John didn't mention, you cannot stop within sight of a checkpoint, green checkpoint. In fact, you cannot go slower than 5 miles an hour. So just make sure you don't do that. Okay, specific questions that we got.
This is an afternoon run. On the full day runs, will the afternoon always be a timed restart when we get back in sequence?
After lunch is always a time of day restart, just like the morning. So if you broke down in the morning and you're running an hour late because you had to fix a flat tire and you had to do something else, you may miss lunch because you got to get back to that start time after lunch. Well, the rally seminar must have helped yesterday.
Will there always be a checkpoint before lunch?
There will always be a checkpoint in the morning. Will it be right before lunch? Not necessarily. You will get good at trying to guess where checkpoints are. Let me give you a hint. When you get the, let's look at the end of the day here. Where's the end of the day? Okay, you get to 61. Let's say you had a checkpoint someplace back around 58 or 59. You had a checkpoint. And you say, whew, we made it. We've been through 4 checkpoints. We're done for the day. All we got is one more stop sign and so on, and we're out of here. Follow the instructions all the way till the end of the course. They may throw a checkpoint in 3 minutes later or 10 minutes later. Don't get anxious and jump the gun at the end of the day. Run it out. Same thing before lunch. Don't assume.
The emergency red stops, are you timed for that?
If there's an emergency, any red stop, if it's an emergency, you're off the clock.
Okay, so that whole leg could be thrown out.
It could be, yeah, that leg could be thrown. They will tell you what to do. They will, if they tell you got a certain time and do this and get to this place, they will tell you what to do. You don't have to worry about that. The instruction says stop, you stop. And they will let you know what to do. All right, let's have a safe rally. I think Saturday night we have a what did I do wrong? John Clausen and I will be there, and we will take you through whatever questions you have at that time. You guys probably won't make any mistakes the first day, so you won't have any questions.
We won't be back in yet.
You won't be back in yet, huh?